How you doing, fans? Excited to have you back for another episode of In the Sand podcast. I'm here with a friend of mine. Of course, we were enemies, not necessarily enemies for real, but we were big rivals for about 6 years at my previous school, Pisgah High School. Coach Moncrief again is a growing legend in this game of coaching. With her last program at Puckett High School, did an amazing job. Obviously, this is her first year. She ended her first year at Lake High School, ended with a state championship, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But one thing that I do appreciate about Coach Moncrief, and I think people get this part wrong about Coach Moncrief. I think sometimes people use her fierce competition where she shows her passion on the floor and think that's who she is in real life. And I think that's totally not true. As I got to know her on and off the floor, deep down, she really has a caring heart. She has a generous spirit, and she really does care about the well-being of other people. And so that was good to be able to see that. And I think as this interview goes along, you'll better see more of that side of her. Now, again, don't get it twisted. Now, she is a competitor, and she will try to win however she needs to win in the right way. But again, that's what competing is. You're trying to win and beat your opponent, and you can't do anything but respect it. So I'm excited to have Coach Moncrief on. Coach, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. It's definitely an honor, and thank you for inviting me to be on here for sure.
Yes, it's like we talked about a little bit before we started on camera. Wish we could have had more conversations like this, but when you're in the same district and you just live in life, and of course you got two rival programs, it's kind of hard to be able to do that. But I'm grateful to have you on because again, you do and you have done it, and you do great things. And I think it's a story to be able to tell because just being able to scout your team, be able to prepare my team to play your team. You just learn a lot about the person that's coaching the team and I guess their journey somewhat. But I want to just hear from you. I like to hear your journey of where this game of basketball started for you and where has it taken you thus far.
Well, I'm a Brandon native, so I played there for Coach Deere, Linda Deere, and then I went on and played 2 years at Meridian Community College, and then finished at Belhaven and got my degree there. And then I went back home to Brandon as the assistant coach for 2 years and loved it. And then when I was 23, 24, Robert Crane at Puckett gave me my first head coaching job, took a leap of faith on me and gave me the opportunity. And I was there for 10 years and I loved every minute of it. I enjoyed the community. I also enjoyed, of course, the girls, and we were very successful. And I have to brag on them because they're the reason, they helped pave the way for me. And then this past year was my first year at Lake, and I have to give credit to those girls as well because it's hard, especially a group of 7 seniors coming in with a new coach and getting to know me and being receptive of me and giving us the opportunity. That was their goal at the beginning. They wanted to go back to back, and they proved they could do it, and we had some bumps on along the way, but they bought in and worked hard, and I definitely couldn't ever thank them enough for what they did. So
Coach, that's amazing. It's a lot of things you said just in the beginning. I just kind of want to ask about your story. Your story kind of seems a little bit similar to mine. Was it a passion of yours when you knew that you wanted to be a teacher and a coach to go back to Brandon? Is that something that you wanted to do, or did it just kind of happen like that?
Well, I guess when I was a sophomore in high school, Coach Deere always did kids camp, and so I kind of got involved in that, worked that, and since then I've loved basketball since I was probably in kindergarten. But I thought, I truly want to be a coach. I knew I always wanted to be a teacher. And I love to learn and I love to teach the game. I feel like that's my classroom and as well. And so I've always had the passion for kids and just getting to see that light bulb go off when they can make a layup, when they're younger, when you do the little kids camp and things like that. And then you get to teach them more when they get in 7th and 8th grade, because some of them have never seen basketball until then. So definitely, I think that's where I grew my passion for the love of the game, but also the love of the players as well. So,
Okay, so Coach, now you said it was 2 years, right, at Brandon?
yes,
All right.
yes.
Well, I'll stop right here. Coach Deere. Coach Deere is definitely a legend in her own right. I can't remember how many career wins she had. I was looking at that previously. Do you know her career wins off top?
I do not know them off the top of my head, but I know it's a lot. I know she has a lot of them.
And so it's amazing to be able to see her. And we talked about this a little bit with Coach Walker on the last two episodes, because the last episode was Coach Collins. She talked about Coach Deere, talked a little bit about you as well in a highlight. But we just talked about the fierce competitive nature of Coach Deere. And I told Coach Walker that I said, I'm definitely have Coach Moncrief on. I said, I see a little bit of Coach Moncrief and Coach Deere. And it's the same thing almost when you see with Coach Deere almost, is that she really commands the room. And again, if you didn't know that who she was, or you didn't know her story, you would think like, this lady is crazy. But
Yes, yes.
she is crazy for basketball, and she's
Uh-huh.
crazy for her kids in a good way. So it's
Yes.
amazing to be able to see Coach Deere. So, and I've seen you all interact with one another. The relationship is beautiful to see. I've seen y'all compete against one another, sideline to sideline, and those were some epic battles. So, Coach, talk to us a little bit about playing for Coach Deere, and then just talk about playing against your former high school coach and just the experience, because I think that's amazing.
Yes. Well, a lot of people can't say that they're fortunate enough to be able to play for their high school coach for, 7th through 12th grade. There was one year in there we moved to Kentucky for my 8th grade year. So 5 years I got to play for her. And when I tell you, when she came in, I was like, oh my gosh, she's so hard. But then you got to know her.
Yes.
And that's kind of where I think she instilled in me hard work, but also compassion, because she did show a lot of compassion with us. And we do have a great relationship. And I think that's what's kind of geared me towards my kids of, I want them, I want to coach them hard, but I want to love them harder too. So, and I mean, just playing for her, I mean, it was, she had no quit in her. So that's something that, as a player, that's what she instilled in me. And I feel like, it was beyond X's and O's. And she was wonderful. I mean, you were going to play defense, you were going to set screens, you were going to do it all. But at the end of the day, she wanted to have a little fun with us too. So, and I have to say this, because I've told her before, playing against her, I told my kids this last time we played at Christmas. I said, if that little lady would have said, get on the line right now, I would have still done it, because I respect her so much. And I still am a little scared of her. So, but in a good way,
Yeah.
definitely. So, and it's been fun playing against her. And, I always have to tell her, this last time we beat you. So she said, yeah, let's not talk about it. So,
Yeah, I didn't even realize y'all played this year, Coach. So you said you came out with the victory this year?
well, okay, so we played this summer. We played once at her place and once at our place, and we split. So
Yeah.
we played the Christmas tournament at Puckett, and we got to play them, and we beat them. So it was kind of like a little championship, I guess, in some ways, because my girls were like, "We beat them," So, but I definitely respect her and know I mean, she's a great coach, and it's I don't even have to say that. People know that for sure. So.
So, Coach, you talked about after you left Brandon, you said Principal Crane reached out to you and wanted you to take over the program at Puckett. Coach, talk to us a little bit about that process. Obviously, you were a Rankin County girl, so you probably knew about Puckett. I know when I got the Pisgah job, didn't know where Pisgah, I didn't know where it was located, didn't know anything about it. So you probably knew a lot about Puckett, but just talk to me about the phone call when you got that phone call and said you would lead the program. And then let's take a walk down memory lane about some of your time at Puckett, the good times, maybe some of the lows, and just the overall, just your overall tenure there, because you say you were there for 10 years, and that's a long time. Obviously, that's a decade, and there's a lot of players. There's a lot of championships. There's lots of wins and losses. So just take as long as you need, but just walk us through your time at Puckett and talk about just your growth as a coach. Just tell us about it all, Coach. Again, I'm excited to hear that story.
Well, like I told you, I was 23 going on 24 whenever I got that job. And so as young, you think, okay, I'm so ready. I'm gonna do this, this, and this. And I was ready, but I feel like, we're always learners of the game. And so I feel like all 10 years I learned something, if not more, every time, every year. Maybe it's about the program, or maybe it's, hey, I want to change this and play this way, this is gonna with personnel. But when I took over at Puckett, they had a little success, but they really hadn't just reached their full potential. And I kind of did some research, but I really got in there. It was late May whenever I got the job, and kind of hit the ground running. I actually had a player, Kelly Allen, who was going to be a junior that my first year, and I kind of just got on her, and I was like, okay, like, you're going to lead us, you're going to do these things. She's like, Coach, I don't know if I can do that. I'm like, I know you can do it, and I didn't think she saw her full potential until we got there, and we're like, okay, you can do this. She started seeing some success. And then it just continued to grow. I think we had maybe 13 girls on the team that year. And then we started doing little kids camp and kind of growing the interest there, because basketball wasn't, a very big interest at the time whenever I got there. And so I think, building that relationship with them, but also with the community and the teachers, and showing that I was going to support them through, everything that I think that made a big difference in who the program and what the program became. And then fast forward, a couple years, I had Rose Warren and Aaliyah Gray and Camille Crane, and a big senior group that came through as 7th and 8th graders, and they were undefeated in 7th and 8th grade. And that's something that they pride themselves on. That's what they wanted to do. And then they came up as 8th graders and really, set the bar. And we set goals at the beginning of the year. We set goals at the end of the year, things that they want to see accomplished as individuals, but also as a team. And, I can remember like it was yesterday, as 8th graders, taking them to watch, like, in the big house, because they had never even been to the big house. They were like, what is that? So just going and watching the state championship game. And I said, if you want this, these are things that we need to do to get there. And it's kind of like they set the bar. They wanted it. The senior group, their 9th grade year, was like hungry for it. They were leaders. And so I tell them, me and Rose talk all the time, how sweet it was to go all 4 years of your high school career to the big house. We never got to win it, but just getting there is a big accomplishment. And every year wasn't roses. I mean, we had some injuries, or we had people coming back from injuries, and things happen. And I feel like they all stuck together. They were a close-knit group. They were my business group. They were all about business. And not leaving out any senior group by no means that came through at Puckett, because everybody did their job, I felt like, and they bought in. And like I said, their parents bought in, because I mean, I like to do adventures, and they're like, okay, you really want to do that with them? I'm like, yeah, let's do it, And so I feel like, the success came because of those girls, and buying in. And, I mean, we practiced, 11 months out of the year, and that was big. And they were like, okay, we want this, we'll be at 6 a.m. practices. If you call it, we'll be there. And so I was very thankful for that. And just, the community in general, embracing that. We always had a packed gym. And I think that made a big difference, especially, on rival games and then big games. And, they just came out and they supported girls basketball, but basketball in general as well. So.
Yeah, that was a sight to see, especially from the outside looking in. And again, of course, my perspective would be different. I think that's going to lead to like good conversation as we continue with this interview process. But didn't know much about Puckett, didn't know much about Pelahatchie, Pisgah, none of the schools at the time when I entered. And this was the crazy part about this, coach, is that taking over at Pisgah, like the first thing we heard is, oh, we got to play Puckett and oh, we got to play Pelahatchie. So my mind is like, man, who are they? And as I grew as a coach, as I grew in the game, I understood why they said that, because of the dominance that was shown by both schools and other schools that we played. And it was just a lot about some things that you built. And a lot of it was built around the culture that you set with Puckett. And I wrote down, no, and I saw this anyway, but it kind of jogged my memory about some of the conditioning things that you all would do. Some of the different, I know you big on the Christmas gathering that you all had. Y'all did stuff in the summer, took trips, etc. Where did that passion to do that come from? Like, where did you pick that up from, or did it just come to you? Did you read about it? Did you share? Or it was something that you always wanted when you were in high school? Or did your high school coach Dear do it, college coach? Like, when did you decide? Because to be honest, coach, it seems like you were ahead of your time, because presently now in 2023, that's what all these kids want. Like, they want those things. They want to be recognized on social media. They want to do events. They want to do TikToks. They want to do pajama parties. They want to do popcorn. They want to do all these things that has nothing to do with basketball, coach.
Right.
They want to do it. But it seems like you sparked it a little bit early. So talk to us about, how did you just kind of, I guess, mold it together to make that a part of the culture of Puckett?
Well, I would say Coach Deer kind of instilled it in me first, because we did a lot of things in the summer. She didn't do some of the things that I do just because I think she thinks I'm crazy for doing them. I don't know. And then I love to read like motivational books. I also like to listen to podcasts and different things like that. And the generation, and that's something I'll talk about later on too. I think our generation that we're coaching, they're hungry for that relationship, and they want to be accepted, but they still want their coach to be proud of them, and they want to see that you care, because I feel like you get more out of them if they know that you care. And so that's kind of where I went, with our lock-in. It kind of started small, and the group that I started with are like, oh my gosh, you do all this other stuff now. And I said, well, if I'd have known then what I know now, then I could have, done those things. I think it's something they look forward to. They always love that big game. They always love that rival game. They always love, taking a trip to play in North Mississippi, or, even out of state, something like that. But they'll always remember the times that you had together. I feel like they will, that you did different things with them. Just like we won the state championship this year. And I was like, all right, what do y'all want to do? Y'all want to go to the trampoline park? Y'all want to go? They're like, really? Can we go? I'm like, yeah, let's go, and so just sporadic things they love, being a part of. So I really want to say Coach Deer kind of started that for me, and then just reading different motivational things. And I love that. I know you've probably read the Energy Bus. I mean, that kind of,
Yeah.
where's your energy at? They want you energized in practice, because that's how I am. But how are you going to show that energy outside? of that. So, and if you give that passion, I think those things kind of come hand in hand with success and winning and building that relationship, because at the end of the day when they graduate, I still want them to get say, hey, Coach Moncrief, come to my wedding, come to this. And so I think that's where you build it at. So
That's very important, Coach, because you want to be able, because it's bigger than basketball, and you want to be able to have relationships. And Coach Justin Sanders at Germantown, my brother, he says it all the time. Like, I'm looking forward to getting the invitation to your wedding, things of that nature. I think what you just said is good, especially for young coaches just getting into this coaching game. I think it's good for young coaches. I think it's good even for our more seasoned coaches as well. With this generation, I think the things that Coach Moncrief is doing, I think it's amazing. I think it's something that you can learn from, because at one time, I was very hesitant on doing those things. I'm like, man, why do we have to do these things? I mean, we just
right.
basketball, and it seems like we're doing all these things and still not getting the success that we need. But what you said makes a difference, and I have seen it over time, is that though when the kids get opportunity to do those things, it allows them to be themselves. But it's the one person that's the most important person that they see, and it's you as the coach, because they say, hey, coach is all right. Coach really eats hamburgers. A coach eats his fries and ketchup. A coach really is a real person. And so then they're like, hey, this person, he or she is actually a solid person, and that opens up doors and opportunities. So again, for those who are taking over a program, implement some of those things. And like Coach said, a lot of the college programs, they say the same things. Like at the highest Division I level, they're doing different activities just to get the kids motivated. One thing that I borrowed from, I want to say, yes, Coach Neighbors at Arkansas, they have a charge wall. Like whenever they get a charge, obviously he takes the picture, hangs in the locker room. And I'm like, man, I don't be taking no pictures and hanging this up.
Right.
But when we did it, kids, it's a competition now, because they're like, hey, I got 6 charges and I got 4 charges. And my point guard, he led the team with charges, and it wasn't even close. Like he was ahead like 8 or 9. So I realized those small things really, really motivate kids in this generation. And be honest, Coach, I say this all the time. I wonder if we needed that when we played, because see, when we played, we just did whatever the coach said. Coach didn't have music, he didn't have no, like, you just did it. But when I think about it, I'm like, man, I wish I kind of would have had some of these things, because to be able to go to the trampoline park, I know you all went to the beach one time in the summertime, to be able to just do these things, I think that would have been amazing. But again, that's the time that we grew up in. But I really believe that we needed that too. We just didn't get it.
Yeah.
Coach, talk a little bit before we transition to Lake. A couple of things that I do want to talk about. I had an opportunity to be able to sit back and watch, and I'm gonna talk about my part later. I had an opportunity, to see you and Coach Fairley coach against each other. Obviously, Coach Fairley is at Clinton High School, and obviously she was at Pelahatchie at the time. And you want to talk about a battle? You had 2 ladies on the sideline that was fierce as ever. 2 ladies on the sideline who did not want to lose. 2 ladies on the sideline who didn't want to lose to each other. And it was amazing to be able to watch it and see it. And, on the side, Justin and I said, we want to be in that spot. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But talk a little bit about just that Puckett Pelahatchie rival, and it's still like that. Like, it's still a rival. It doesn't really matter if the teams are good, teams are not good. Their fans hate you, your fans hate them. They hate the coach, like anything, like they hate the red. You see the disrespect with the shirts. Puckett stinks, Pelahatchie stinks, like it's like serious. So kind of talk to a little bit of our fans, and I know we probably got some Puckett fans on here, some Pelahatchie fans, maybe some Pisgah, and some of your Lake fans who getting to know you, because Lake has a strong little rival too, and I've been a part of that as well. So we might talk about that, but talk a little bit about Coach Fairley and just that rival with Pelahatchie.
Well, I think Fairley is a great coach, and she's kind of like me. she's a competitor and she wants to win, and she's going to work hard and they're going to work hard. And, over the years, we kind of joke about it. We got to coach the All-Star game together, and everybody was like, oh, they're rivals and they're coaching together. And honestly, it was the best time. Like, we had so much fun together. We're like, she's not really that bad, and, but kind of getting off topic, but as well as the gym was always packed for those games. And those are things that you talk about in the locker room, where this is what you want. You want a packed gym. This is what you want to play in front of, and you want to live in that moment, because, you never know. Hey, that might be a packed gym, but next year it may not be. You never know. Like when COVID hit and you couldn't have so many people in. So enjoy that moment. I think back to the times, the battles that we had, and there were years where she won and there was years where we won, and, championship games, they were always, always fierce and very close. And, I feel like her kids poured out everything that they had, just like my kids did. And they knew that it meant something, for that rivalry. And, you were playing more, you say it all the time. When we used to have the Rankin County tournament, we would play each other 4 times, it seemed, throughout the year. And it was a rival every time. And, I do miss those days of coaching against her, just because it was fun, and as a coach, you want to see your kids lay everything out there, on the line, because it means something to them as well. So.
And that's a good point, Coach. And it's like iron sharpens iron. And when you can compete against someone that's going to bring the best out of you and your team, and I think it's an amazing thing. And it's funny you said that. I was talking to Coach Farrell, I guess around the time you all was coaching together in the All-Star game, and she said the exact same thing. Like, she said she really got to really know who you were as a person, and that's kind of why I really opened up, like, with the podcast when I introduced you, but also just the platform that this podcast has, is that we spend a lot of time going against each other, and a lot of times we go on hearsay, she say. But when you really get into an intimate place with someone, or you get into planning or scouting and scheming or being with the All-Star game, you get to know a person and be like, hey, that was almost some wasted time. So I think she thinks highly of you as well. And Coach, just to talk kind of about when we played you all, it was the most fun, frustrating, stressful time all at the same time. And I think you probably saw that in Justin and our face. And it was tough though. We could never at first really find our footing against Pelahatchie or Puckett. And the thing that was crazy, Coach, and I can tell you now, obviously, because that was, we don't play anymore, not the same thing, but Justin and I would spend so much time preparing for the Puckett game. Like we prepare so much time, and it would never look like it, Coach, because for some weird reason, our kids would get out there. We'll start the game off, Coach. We go over it. We know what Coach Moncrief's system is. We know what they're going to do. We know how they play it. They excel at it perfectly. We know that, but these are the things we got to do. So, Coach, we going over it. But for some reason, Coach, and of course, my kids probably hate for me when I'm going to say this, but when they got on the floor and they saw Puckett, it's like we lost everything. And I could not understand that for the life of me. And I just said, if we can just get through this first 4 minutes, that was always the goal. We get through the first 4 minutes, we'll be all right. We took it like a boxing match, but we just couldn't do it a majority of the time. There was one time we was able to finally beat Puckett, man. It was a major accomplishment for us and our girls. And I knew, and Justin and I knew deep down that Coach Moncrief, she hate this. Ooh, she hated it. And that's what made it a little bit sweeter. But at the same time, Justin and I said, she coming for us next year, right? Yeah. And I said, bring her on. And that's what made it so fun, is that I had nothing personal against Coach Moncrief, not at all. And this is the thing that some people get confused too. Like, Coach Moncrief teams were better than us, but even she had an opportunity to be able to just beat us probably by 100, but never did she do that to me and my team. And that's one thing that I do appreciate you for. I always told you after the game, I appreciated you, Coach, and I think you kind of knew what I was saying, but I want to say it
Right.
publicly. I did appreciate that because you could have killed us by 100. We still got beat pretty bad, but it wasn't nothing that it just happened like that. It was just kind of the game of basketball, and it wasn't anything personal. So I do appreciate that. But no lie, Coach, Justin and I, we would. And I found a note like maybe a couple of months ago when we had the play call set from baseline out of bounds, sideline. Like we had it all together, and Justin and I were just spinning so many wheels, just trying to make it work, make it happen, and it was challenging to be able to do that. But that just kudos to you though, in that manner of it. So that was a good time. That was a good time.
Yes, they were. They were not losing, but it was a good time. It was a good time.
All right, Coach. Now, obviously you're at Lake High School now, Coach. It's always hard to leave and go somewhere new. It doesn't matter if you're going to a new house, or you move into a new city, new church, even picking a new car. It's challenging because you never know what is expected because of the unknown, because you're going somewhere new. And
Right.
so, Coach, you planted your roots there in Puckett. Obviously, you were living there, became a member of the community. Darn near could have been the mayor of Puckett. Then you get an opportunity to be able to go to Lake High School. So, Coach, talk to us a little bit, because I know it had to be challenging. I know it probably had to be difficult. I know a lot of people probably were mad at you, upset with you. So, take us through the process of leaving Puckett, making that decision, where you had pretty much and should be a legend there at Puckett, and taking your talents to Scott County, to Lake High School.
Well, I tell people all the time, it was probably the hardest decision I've ever had to make, just because that was home for 10 years and I had gotten to know everybody in Puckett. And I was comfortable, and sometimes comfortable is not good. I understand that. And then as well as my husband is in education, and he had the opportunity to come be the principal at Lake High School. And we've always said we wanted to be together, and it happened, that Coach Bowie got the Morton job. So he went back to his hometown. And so I was like, okay, I'll go in and talk to him and interview and things like that. And, I truly, I prayed about it for a while because I wasn't sure, like you said, it's hard to move somewhere. It's hard to leave your house, anything like that. And so, Joe and I sat down, we weighed the pros and the cons, and we truly prayed about it. And, God said, it's time, and you'll know when it's time. And I've had coaches tell me, you'll know, when it's time for you to move on, because, just like any coach, you have a 5-year plan. And, after that 5 years, you're like, okay, well, 10 years down the road, it was, I loved my time there. And so whenever they offered me, I talked to Joe and my family and things like that, and I thought this would be the best thing for us as a family. And I knew the winning tradition at Lake. And I knew that it was going to be challenging just because they did just win a state championship. And so coming in and they're getting to meet me and my style and of basketball, and getting to know me outside of basketball. And we kind of hit the ground running in April and never looked back. We got to have a great summer, and we got to do some fun things that we talked about earlier with team bonding and things like that. And so I kind of think that helped kind of break the ice for me. And I have a wonderful assistant who was already here, so she kind of knew the ins and outs, and we got closer through the summer and throughout the season. And I always say she was my calm to my storm, because she was, and she's a fierce competitor as well. And so I told her coming in, we got a target on our back, but I've been there before, when Puckett, they were very successful and everybody wanted to beat Puckett. And so I said, they just have a large target that, you're going to get everybody's best game. And, it took a while for the girls to understand that, because they're like, we just want it, and then they realized that, okay, we're getting everybody's A game and we're going to have to bring it every day. And, and getting to know me and being receptive of things that I did, because drills were different. um and getting to know my coaching style of things and so forth. But I mean, I really and truly love Lake. It's a lot like Puckett. It's a small community, and the community rallies around their athletic programs, from top to bottom. And it was amazing to see that through the year, how it progressed. And and the girls, they were hungry, and they wanted to make history of going back to back, because I don't think that's ever happened at Lake, especially in girls basketball, going back to back. So I truly I'm enjoying it. And we're back practicing now, so they're getting ready for next year as well. So
Um, it's a lot there, Coach. And what I mean, there's a lot in that story. And the first thing I think about is sometimes when coaches come in after a coach has just won the championship, and then they bring majority of those players back, a lot of people, for some reason, discredit that coach for that championship.
right.
And I talked with Coach Tadlock about that, because he was in the same situation when Coach Green left and went to, I think Coach Green went to Clinton. Yeah, I think it went to Clinton or Tupelo at that time. And then same thing with Coach David Sanders, who's going to be on in a couple episodes, when he was at Callaway behind Coach Brent. And then the same thing with you coming in after Coach Bowie. Obviously, Coach Bowie is a good coach, so it shows the talent that he has.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that at the same time is, even though the pieces may be there, even though the team may be there, there's not a guarantee that that's a championship. And you said it, Coach, to be honest, it's a little bit more pressure to win it, because the naysayers are saying, well, that's not your team, or you ain't going to do this, or you're not going to do this. So for you to be able to make that run, and I kind of just want to talk about some of the highs and lows of the season and taking us to the championship game, about how that process went, because obviously, as competitors, we hear the noise, of course, we hear the stories, and that's what makes a great story, is filling in those blanks. And that's why I said it was just a lot in what you said, because I like a good athletic story. So, Coach, just talk to us a little bit about, I guess we can start in November. You talk a little bit about the summer, but just in November, and just taking all that run all the way up until you got to the big house in March.
Well, if you look at our schedule, our strength of schedule was big time. And I think that's what made a difference in the long run, because we were playing Vicksburg, Columbus, Hancock, all of those. So our weaknesses, I felt like, got exposed early, which is sometimes good. That those are things that we can work on, not just going against each other in practice, because everybody knows what everybody can do in practice. So when we can truly work on those weaknesses, or even our strengths, getting those better, I think that's big. And I have to credit my group of seniors, because they truly bought in. They truly were leaders, when, if everything wasn't roses, because not everything in every season is going to be roses. But and I feel like, we lost a couple at the beginning, and people were like, oh, I don't know if they're going to win it again, and I kept going back to this group of girls, not just the seniors, but the group, and said, look, if you will trust me, just trust the process. You're going to be successful. You're going to see results in the long run. And, we went down and played in the Christmas tournament, and we won both those games. And I thought, okay, we're making a turning point, of our confidence kind of got back. And then we went into the Scott County tournament and won that. And that was big because you played Forest and Morton, who beat us early on in the year. But I think we fixed things. I think we gelled together and made those things happen. And then we went through district, and our district is tough. I mean, you got Kemper, you got Newton, you got Philly, you got Anawaya. And so I feel like those things kind of made a difference for us. Whether it was, play in our district or outside our district, we took some bumps and bruises in our district. We lost to Kemper one time, and then we lost to Newton one time, and we had the district tournament at our place. And I feel like the girls just they turned it on. They were like, we are not losing. And so when we hit that district tournament stretch, I mean, they were unbelievable. Their defense turned up, their offense execution turned up. I love to full court press. So I mean that we changed some things, tweaked some things, and it's kind of like, okay, we get it now. We get what you want us to do. And truly they bought into me and Coach Lofton, because I mean, like I said, we played a tough preseason, to say, schedule, and so that definitely made a difference there. And then we took it on. We played Lloyd Star and Pisgah, and then we saw West Lincoln, who was 25 and I think one maybe going into that game. And so they're well coached, and I knew that was going to be tough, and I knew our defense had to step up another notch. And so I really think they understood as they say, the assignment now. And so they took it and ran with it. I feel like, and I told them at the end, I feel like they made me a better coach, but they also made me a better person. Getting to know them and those different things. So I definitely credit all of it to them, all the success that we had to them, because they truly bought in and truly worked hard for me. So
I think that's amazing, Coach. And I pulled up your schedule so our fans can see it. And you are right, though. And just looking at it, it is a tough schedule when you look at it, just the overall part of that schedule. Because, and again, you see a lot of different variety of different styles of play. As I'm looking at the schedule, I'm looking at different classes, I'm looking at in county rivals, I'm looking at a lot of different things that I see, and those things are important. Like Vicksburg definitely is of course, they were probably picked to probably be maybe number one in 5A. Of course, they had Miss Dandy Dozen, but they fell a little bit short this year. So that's a great measuring stick, even to be in that game. Of course, 2A to 5A, that's amazing. And be able to see that, Coach. And I can tell, and I wasn't there, but I know losing to Morton probably early in the season probably brought a lot of just because, well, she lost to Morton. I don't know if we can do it or not, because when you play county schools, that's very, very important. And Morton did very good this year. Scott County as a whole
they did
great, man. Major props to Scott County, of course, Morton boys, Morton girls, Forest girls, obviously you and your team. And then just to be able to see it, Coach, that's an amazing, Coach. I'm looking at it, Coach. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You go to 9-0 run, and then you start, like you said, you start district, and then you lose 2 district games in a row, but our 3 games in a row. And then, Coach, you go through the rest of the season without a loss. Looking at that schedule, Coach, I saw the playoff run. Obviously, you played my previous school, Pisgah High School. I was excited for those young ladies to be able to get to the playoffs. Again, that was an amazing thing to just be able to get there and do an amazing job. So that was good.
I will say they're young and they're good. Just more experience. They're gonna be a team to watch, I feel like. So
yeah, they are though. They're a great program and a great community, and some great coaches there. So just amazing to what they're doing. But Coach Wheeler there on the girls' side. West Lincoln, of course. Then you played West Lincoln when you were at Puckett. Then y'all
yes.
okay.
Yes.
So I remember that was a game. And the Belmont game, some people felt like the Belmont late game semifinal was should have been a championship game. And I told someone as we were watching the game, I said that Belmont's going to be hungry because last year Lake, I'm not going to say they kind of snuck up on everybody, but if you didn't see Lake play in person or you didn't see him play, you wouldn't have known what they could do. I saw him the previous year with Coach Bowie because they came a couple of times to where we were playing in the summer. So
Mm-hmm.
Belmont was a lot more motivated. And no lie, Coach, when you all went down, and then it seemed like the league kept growing and growing and growing. I was like, ooh, it's gonna be tough for Coach. But I sent you a text maybe the day after or the couple of days after, and I said, Coach, when you all finally settled down into what y'all did well or what y'all do well in your identity, then as you look at the score, the game just blossomed because sometimes, Coach, and you've been in the Coliseum before. I saw you when you played the Coliseum with Puckett. I saw the year when you played Calhoun City. Sometimes athleticism, sometimes the scheme can really get you ahead. But if you don't
Right.
have the players to be able to fight that adversity, because there's a lot of adversity,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
tough. And I can only imagine in that halftime in that locker room, you probably was stumping those feet of yours. You probably were just doing the
Actually,
holler.
I didn't. Can you believe that? I didn't. I did not.
Hard to believe.
So I have to say this. My point guard this year, she kind of went in and said, y'all, we got to get it together.
Yeah.
And she doesn't say a whole lot. She kind of leads by example. She's going to play hard, and it kind of caught everybody off guard, like, oh my gosh, she's saying this. And I feel like they kind of talked it out. I mean, we came in and of course, adjusted things as coaching staff, but I mean, I loved the fact that they kind of got together before we walked in, and we could hear them, and they weren't fussing. They were just saying, y'all, we saw this, I saw this, and I feel like that's what makes a team, when they can trust each other and they can listen to each other and so forth. So, I mean, I definitely, again, have to credit them for that. So,
That was good to see, Coach. So that's good to hear because I said I know because I said I would love to be a fly on the wall in that locker room. Came out and looked like Lake. Then the championship game, again, I was talking to somebody else, and again, they felt like they said, well, the speed of Heidelberg may rattle Lake a little bit. And I said, okay, I said Heidelberg does have speed. I watched Heidelberg when they played Velma Jackson, a great game.
mm-hmm.
I just said the stat. I said if you're gonna go pace for pace, scheme for scheme, I think Lake gonna have that advantage because I think they've been there before, got a little
Mm-hmm.
veteran leadership. And to me, that's kind of the difference that I saw. Again, the speed and the consistency that you all play with, the defense that you all have, and the way you shoot the ball, those three things were evident in the championship game. So it was good to be able to see those things. And I like that just to be able to watch basketball. Some individuals just have personal vendettas, but I just like to watch the basketball game of it. So to be able to see you all keep your identity and play at a high level was good to see, Coach. So, Coach, I want to talk about this, and you and I kind of talked about this off camera a little bit, but I think it's important to say, um, of course, you had success at Puckett obviously over your 10 years, you get to Lake and you have success. And it's not success that just came out of the blue. Like you really grind, you really work. And for those who know you, you really put it all in. And I was just thinking about your story. And again, of course, we talked about some things. But do you feel that championship game, you winning that championship game, do you think that finally kind of checks the box about some people who may question, well, can she win it at this level or can she win it at this school? Do you think that, and I know you're not a coach that's looking for validation and looking what people say, whatever, boom, boom, but just personally, do you feel like that answers all the questions that, hey, Coach Moncrief can get it done? Doesn't matter the time, place, or situation?
I think, going back to that question, I think about, you know, sometimes I think coaches think, oh, I gotta win a state championship,
Mm.
and I truly don't think that defines you, whether you're a great coach or not, because I know of great coaches that have never, won a state championship, but all our goals and my goal, I mean, I want to win as many state championships as I can. And I do think in some ways it does, check a box that, okay, she can do this. She's been there, she knows what it takes, but now to win it, I feel like, and if you know me and you know my coaching style and you've seen me, coach and just the girls, I feel like, it does check a box, but I also think, in the long run, um, I think developing those relationship and developing leaders on and off the court, are just as important in some ways, and I truly want people to, that's what I want them to see me as. I love that we won a state championship, and we're gonna work just as hard this off season and preseason to make sure that we can do that again. But I want people to know me, for my passion and my energy and that I love the game, but I love those kids. And I want to build leaders because we're going to need leaders when we get old. And so again, I do think it checks a box, and I do think, I've one word is unbelievable. I can't express the feeling of winning. And I hope, every coach gets to feel that, because it's something that you can never imagine. It's something that, I will remember for the rest of my life. And I'm thankful that, God saw it fit that I got to experience that, because like I said, sometimes I'm like, is this really real? Like, did this happen? Um and I do love it. And I'm hungry for another one. I want another one, but I also think it's more, we kind of talked about that. X's and O's are great, but I think more, I think these kids need more than just that. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. It definitely does. And I think people understand what it means when it says check a box. And again, through it all, we just want to be able to just spotlight great things that people are doing. And so I think anything that you put your mind to, you're able to do it. And again, and we talked about this earlier too, that sometimes in life you kind of hate how the rules of life are, and that's kind of the world we live in. And sometimes you got to know how the game is being played and the maneuvers that you have to make to be successful. But that's one thing, just from coach to coach, just was happy that you were able to kind of check their box and allow people to be able to, okay, now we don't necessarily have to ask that question anymore, because again, you did it. You
Right.
did it with class, and you did it in a humble way, because again, you still gave acknowledgement to your players, obviously to your coach, your assistant coach. And what's your assistant coach name?
Tika Lofton.
Tika Lofton.
She's a good one. She is a good one.
Kudos to Coach Lofton. You gave props to your administration, your community, even the coaching, obviously, even Coach Bowie before you gave that. So I think that was major for you. So again, just from coach to coach, coach, I'm glad, just from coach to coach, I'm glad, coach, that you were able to do that.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about basketball, coach, and then we go to our fast break questions, and then we'll get you out of here, coach. All right, coach. When do you call a timeout? Timeouts are important, of course, during this time. We March Madness time. Really, it's depending on when you're watching this episode. Right now, currently, we are in March Madness time. We got the Final Four and the national championship coming up.
My
So
favorite time of the year.
yeah, like it's nothing else like March Madness. And again, that's just not me being just a basketball guy.
Right.
I mean, March Madness is just amazing, and a lot of things that kind of correlate with this is just amazing. Like the women's finals obviously is going to be legendary. Of course, South Carolina Coach Don Staley are picked to win it, but you just never know. On the
Right.
men's side, you have no blue bloods in it, so it's a
Upsets.
yeah, it's super upset. Like, and they say it's like four people got a predicted this Final Four. There's no way that you predict that.
Right.
But hey, maybe they are. I'm gonna be positive. They got.
Uh-huh.
But talk about timeouts. That's a situational thing. What's your philosophy with calling timeouts?
Well, usually if a team goes on a run, maybe I my my max is 6 point. Like if they get, 3 quick baskets, or, we go down and we don't score, in 4 possessions. I'm like, okay, maybe we need to start looking at a timeout. Maybe they're throwing something different at us that we're not used to, or, maybe we're seeing something that they don't see. But if they go on a run of 6 points, I'm calling a timeout. So and I always say, if you have, I don't like to leave timeouts on the board, just because I feel like, it may be a teaching point as well. You might be up, and I'm not saying, drag it out if you're up 20 or 25 or whatever, but there might be at the beginning of the year where you've got to call a timeout because you're like, okay, in this situation, we're going to run this out of a timeout. Let's see if they're going to execute it. Those type of things. Crucial points. I know, we called a timeout, I think, in the championship game, but it was more of, yeah, we were up big, but it was more of, I wanted them to feel the energy in the big house, and things like that. So, but most of the time, I mean, I'm going to call one if they're up 6 or they go on a run, or something like that, just trying to try to ice them, or, if it's a close ball game and they're at the free throw line, and this kid's, 1 for 3, or she's 2 for 4, I'm gonna call a timeout. She may make one, but I'm gonna call that timeout just so she has to think about it a little more on her end. So
That's good. Again, timeouts is always a big topic of conversation because you got to use them correctly. You got to know when to use them, when not to use them, because sometimes it could take momentum away from your team or even their team. So it's just something just good to just kind of get other people's philosophy with. This is another question I've been asking all of our basketball coaches too. You down? I mean, you actually up by 3 points. It's 10 seconds left. The other team has the basketball. Coach, are you fouling, or are you just going to play good defense and try to win a game that way? What's your philosophy on that?
I think playing good defense, and I also think it goes along with your personnel. This year we were better when we pressed. And that's what we were comfortable with. If they're in the bonus, I may not press. Just because I don't know if an official is going to call a hand check, or, I know we're up 3, but still I don't want to give them an opportunity. So we might possibly back up and just play half court man to man, switch everything, make sure we get out on their shooters, make sure we're definitely switching on their 3 point shooter if they're trying to win the ball game off of it. I might say, look, if they get in the lane, don't foul them, give them the layup if there's 10 seconds left or whatever. I'm okay with that because you still win by 1. Now, granted, I would love to win by 3, so I definitely want to play defense, but I also think it's a time and a situational thing, kind of like timeouts, where you want to play good defense and you don't want to foul and you don't want to give up a 3, especially you don't want to foul on a 3, where they have a chance to make free throws or to win the ball game if you foul them and they make it. So
That makes sense. Again, it just depends on, like I say, philosophy, personnel, and all those different things. And people have different opinions about it, and it's good to be able to see it. I know Coach Jay Wright, former coach of Villanova, he believes in foul. I think it's under like 5 seconds.
right, uh-huh.
So everybody has a philosophy with it. I've been caught in both situations, and the situation when I didn't foul, the kid hit the 3, we go to
Right, yes.
lose, and the time that I did foul, we end up winning the game. So I'm leaning more towards the foul, but
Right, yes.
it just really depends on that situation.
Mhm.
Talk about offense, coach. I had an opportunity, obviously, to scout you and watch film on you for 6 years about your offense. So I just asked you about 2 parts of your offense. Talk to us about your favorite set play, and then talk to us about what do you feel is the best offensive action that you can get on the court. And it may be tied into your set play that you're going to share, but talk to us again about your favorite set play or favorite style of set play, and then talk about what is the best scoring opportunity that you believe is a high percentage in the game of basketball.
Well, I'm a pick and roll girl. I'm kind of old school with that. I love to see, if you have a big post player, set that pick and roll, and you're either getting your guard either is getting to the basket or a pull up, or you're getting your big girl down low. I love that. I love. We run a UCLA cut into a pick and roll just to try to get that off as much as we can. That's probably my favorite set. Like I said earlier, we're always learners of the game, and so you steal things from other people. I've really My assistant coach has kind of got me into studying this 4 out, one in deal, or even a 5 out. So just setting screens that way, read and react, has kind of become one of our strong points, I feel like, this year. I really like that as well. I know a lot of people are going to a dribble weave. We have something a little like that. I'm still studying a little more on that because I think our guard play this past year and this year is gonna be strong. And so I feel like we can do that. But I can't go away from a pick and roll. My assistant coach like everything is something to do with it. I said, oh yes, we're gonna set a backdoor screen. We're gonna set a high ball screen. We're gonna set it, we're gonna set it on the wing, whatever we can do. And I think that's something that you have to teach, because a lot of them don't know how to come off a screen or come and set the screen close enough. You see a lot of moving screens today in high school basketball. Those are things that when we break up individually, post guard, we work on, and then we bring it together and work on that as well. So definitely anything to do with the pick and roll I love. But I am loving this 4 out, one in, just because it gives your guards an opportunity to get to the basket on their own, but also create off of it as well. So
Yes, coach. I'm a big read and react guy. I really, really like it. I tried it. We tried it when it was at Pisgah with our girls. It just never really clicked. On the boys' side, we ran it pretty well,
oh
pretty
yes.
successful. And now at my new spot at Richland, and you said something earlier too, and I realized this maybe 2 days ago. And I wanted to talk to you about this earlier, but it just hit me again. It's so important when you go to a new school, and it's just advice for any coach, especially during this time when a lot of coaches are getting new jobs. If you can get over there and work with your kids to start implementing some of the things you want system-wise, it helps out so much. And if you're not able to get there during April or May, you might have to take a little bit of time in July, because this year, my seniors didn't buy in as fast as your seniors did. And that's a blessing too. And that's another story that we probably talk about another episode about taking seniors that you inherit and try to get them to buy in 8 or 9 months. But I'll say that for another episode. But as I'm working now with this group now in the spring, we're really taking time and implementing our system phase by phase, and it's really doing wonders. And I think if I maybe would have spent a little bit more time, I had an opportunity to work with this last group that just graduated, it had a little bit more success. But we had other things going on that kind of took our season in a different direction. But I thought about that with the read and react. Pick and roll is always good, coach. It's very hard to guard the pick and roll because the pick and roll is just very, very it's simply just hard to guard. And I was sitting here thinking about what coach said, and I remember Coach Brian and Mazin Central, she likes to run the pick and roll as well, because it's about John Stockton and Karl Malone. So that pick and roll is a difficult thing. Coach, do you still call? I know what Wolf is. Is Wolf Hornet now, or is it still?
It is.
That's funny.
And I actually said wolf during the summer, and they're like, it's not wolf, coach. Yeah. I'm like, you're right. It's not. It's Hornet.
Yeah, I of course our part of our reading rack was called Dragon. So a lot in the summer I was still yelling Dragon. I said, no, it's Ranger now. But that's funny though. And I said that, coach, is because when I was at Pisgah, we had a play. Ours was just corner, but it was the same thing. And I'm like, hear her calling Wolf, and you still getting beat by the same play that we had. And I was like, that was so frustrating, but another time, another day. Coach, let's go through some fast break questions and then we're gonna get you out, coach. These fast break questions are just kind of questions that we use to kind of get our coaches thinking a little bit, thinking outside the box. They kind of know some of the questions we're gonna ask, but we may change it up a little bit. So just to kind of get you to see some of them on a personal level. So our first fast break question for Coach Moncrief is, Coach, who's your favorite college team? And you can do men or women, or you can do both. Who's your favorite college team, and who is your pick for the national championship this year?
Well, I have kind of fallen in love with LSU. I've always liked Kim Mulkey. I think she's great. I love her fashion. I wish I could, wear those snazzy suits or blazers, but I don't think they'll make those for me. But I do like those. So that's probably my favorite college team, and I have to give a shout out to my assistant again because she loves LSU. So we're kind of like, man, they're in the Final Four. Let's go. And my pick, I like Dawn Staley, and South Carolina is going to be so hard to beat. And I like Iowa because I like Caitlin Clark and I like the way that they run things. But that's probably not everybody's favorite, but I'm going for LSU. I hope they win it, and but I'll be happy for an SEC team to win. So I definitely can't complain about that, but LSU is my pick. So
Okay. And this is a great year because the men's Final Four is in Houston and the women's. So that's amazing. Let's go all-time coaching staff, coach. If you had to assemble a coaching staff just with high school coaches only, who would be on your staff? And obviously, I know you're going to say your assistant coaches, so you can't say them. So I'm taking that one out. So who's going to be on your all-time coaching staff for high school?
Well, I can't leave out my high school coach, Linda Deer. I would love to coach with her. Also one of the all-time winningest coaches, Gina Skelton. She's one that, I have picked her brain on things and so forth. Can't leave out my guy, Tony Tadlock. I know he coaches boys, but I admire him and what he does and things like that. I know she's a college coach now, but when Stephanie Murphy was on the high school level, I got to coach with her as her assistant for 1 year, and I learned so much. And so I would like to say her. College level, I'm gonna say Vic Schaefer because I like Texas. I like his style of defense that he plays. I'm going to say Pat Summit because, gosh, she was unbelievable. I like to hear her motivational things that they still have out that you can listen to. Kim Mulkey, of course. And also, I've kind of like Virginia Tech's Kenny Brooks, I think is his name. And so I love the way he does things and what he does and what he brings to the table. So I think that's the ones I would like in college as well. So.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm gonna blessed to have Coach Murphy on. I'm excited about that. I hear great things about her. So I'm excited about that part. But that's a great list, Coach. That's a very, very good list. Now, I'm looking at these names, Coach, and those are a lot of dominant figures on there. So I don't even know how all that's going to even work together.
I don't either, but
Yeah,
man, I would love just one day with them, and because we might get some stuff done.
yeah. You'll get the deal done. Might be a little fussing and yelling, but you're gonna get something
Yes,
done.
yes,
That's a lot
yes.
of personalities. Coach, who do you consider to be the greatest woman player or the greatest female to be able to play in the WNBA? Who would be your GOAT of the WNBA?
Well, I am a big Sue Bird fan just
Sure.
because, I was a point guard and she was an unbelievable point guard. They're not in the WNBA, but Aaliyah Boston, gosh, I think she is phenomenal. And then I know I mentioned Caitlin Clark at one point. Her range is Steph Curry range, and so I definitely think there's just so many really. I like, I'm an old Comets fans, Houston Comets fans, and so I love Cynthia Cooper. I that group, I still have my jersey from when I was younger, and that's who I watched. Cheryl Swoops. I had her jersey, and then Tamika Catchings. Gosh, she was good. I got to see her play at Tennessee one year, and that was amazing. So
That's pretty cool. Yeah, Houston Comets, man, they were that team. Like, excuse me. It's funny you said that. You don't really hear a lot of people talk about the Houston Comets anymore, and they were. Did they win the first 3 WNBA
they
championships?
did. They
Yeah,
did. They
yeah.
did.
You don't hear a lot about the Comets and just the legacy and what they did. I wonder why. Hopefully it's not anything negative, but again, the Comets
Right.
really,
Right.
really put WNBA on the market. They said, "Hey, we're here to play." Um, Talk to us, Coach, about the growth and direction of the WNBA. I guess that's a great segue to that question. Talk about just the growth that you see with it. I know it's a fast break question, so I don't want to get too detailed. So let me just rephrase this question. How do you feel about the emerging superstars or teams creating super teams in the WNBA? What's your feeling with that?
I kind of go back and forth on it. I like the fact of it. And then I think, okay, well, if you put all of them on one team, it's not fun watching them play, other people or the next five. But I also think, women's basketball in general is booming. And I have to credit that to Dawn Staley and the Kim Mulkeys and, that have been advocates for women's basketball in general, and I think basketball is an art in some ways, and I feel like when you watch it, you're like, oh my gosh, like they're creating things and doing things that guys are doing, and yeah, you don't see a lot of people dunking women's basketball, but they're doing other things. They're doing euros. They're doing different things that you would always see in the men's game. But now I think the women's game is elevating, and they're putting in time and effort and all of this to be the best. And so I mean, I'm a big advocate, obviously, of women's basketball, and I like the WNBA and what they're promoting on women's part of basketball, and I like the fact of you are getting superstars, and you are like Victoria Vivens. I got to coach against her, for 2 years when she was at Scott Central, and that was big, to watch her game elevate from Mississippi State to the WNBA, and I just think I think it's becoming a thing, and that's great because that's what I want. I want women's basketball to be, important and continue to thrive.
That's good, Coach. Coach, as we wrap up and we go into and this came to me earlier, so I thank God for this. I've been calling it the closing segment, but now I can call it the final shot. So that name kind of stuck with me. So, Coach, before I give you the final shot as we close the show up, answer this question first and then take your final shot. Coach, what is something that people often get wrong about you? Just you being who you are. What's something that people often get wrong about you?
I think kind of what you said at the beginning, I'm a fierce competitor, and on the court, I'm, all in all the time. And, when you truly get to know me and my heart, and you get to see exactly why I got into coaching, it's a testimony, in my opinion, of, my journey. And I feel like, when people really see that, they see the real me. Not that basketball and coaching is not the real me, because I'm like that in practice. I'm energetic, I'm fierce, I want to get after it. I want you to be the best. And but I feel like, with if they can really see my heart, they will understand, why I am the way I am, and my passion for the game, but also for my kids. Cause like I said, I know I said this a lot tonight, relationships are big to me. And I feel like, as basketball, that's my way of, that God called me to do this. And I want to make sure that they know more than just basketball. So.
All right. right, coach, it's your final shot. It's on you.
I just again want to thank you for this opportunity for allowing me to come on and speak because it is what I'm passionate about. And one thing I want to tell younger coaches, because I mean I still think I'm young,
Yeah.
that take things, steal things from other coaches. Don't try to be, like me or like a Tony Tadlock or somebody, make your own identity, but take things that they have said or that you see and make it the best that you can. And I hope whoever watches this that they know that they could call me anytime, if they had a question about basketball or a question about anything. And I'm one phone call away because that's what I enjoy doing, is talking basketball. So again, thank you for having me.
Coach, I definitely appreciate it. Again, it was very, very good to have you on to be able to just have a conversation about basketball, kind of take a walk down memory lane, kind of joke about some of the things that we kind of experienced on a similar path, and just excited for what you got going on. Obviously, I know you're going to have big things in the future for you as you continue to grow into the game. And of course, we wish you the best at whatever you do. Fans, I'm so grateful that you continue to watch the podcast, support it. Please like, please share, and please subscribe. And please continue to be kind and be nice. It's kind of something I always say because it's something that can just help the world just be a little bit better.